Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Okay, we're going to do a different format tonight. Now, depression and anxiety. Most of the times when I do a talk on this, we'll talk about the details behind it. You know, what the medical definition is, how the medical definition, or how depression came from black bile, the Greek term, how it's just horrible, and then the medical therapies for it, and everything. And then I get down to the solutions, and it's kind of limited. So we're going to be changing the format of this, but I just want to let you know in advance, because one of the things, and you'll see this stuff on a lot of different sites when they're presenting information that people may take advice from that may be different than their healthcare professional. Okay, and normally in a talk like this, I can put up that the side effect of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which is one of the most common drugs they use for depression, is suicide and suicidal thoughts. And I could say, look, if you got a medical professional passing this stuff out, he's an idiot. Okay, you got to find somebody for new stuff. So normally I have data present like that so that you can make the decision for yourself. Okay, but this, you just got to find somebody to help you. If there's some kind of problem, we got to actually fix it. So this is how I've laid out about 800 talks that we have. I give a subject, talk about the definition or what the people think it is. It could be hiatal hernias, it could be anything. The medical approaches, which typically aren't really effective. Okay, they're dealing with symptoms, they're cutting out something or putting something in. And then I talk about the physiology and the natural solutions. But one of the things when we're talking about depression, what is the physiology? Okay, what's going on? And when you look at it, it's actually, cancel the update. Yes. Yeah, wouldn't that be fun to update during a health talk? Okay, so when you look at this, the definition of it, and a lot of people, because you can see a broken arm, you can see an open cut, but you can't really see depression. Where does it come from? Why is it there? Why don't you just pick it up? Step it up. So what we're going to talk about in this talk is the causes that can be linked to depression. Now, these are not causes, because everybody has physical, chemical, and emotional stress. We all have this. But depression and anxiety is when you lose the ability to adapt to this, when it just becomes so overwhelming. Now, has anyone in here been in a situation where you thought there was no hope? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I have too. There's some times when you think, man, leaving this world, would be way easier than staying in it. So when I hear somebody, black bile, death, depression, man, I know where you're coming from, where there's absolutely no out. So I'm not talking about standard work stress. I'm not talking about sedentary lifestyles. I'm not talking about the standard stuff. I'm talking about when it goes overwhelming. Okay, now this is why when I say you got to find somebody to help you out of it. Okay, I'm going to give you certain techniques that you can look at and certain causes, because a lot of these causes are not appreciated. And if you boil all of this, the stressors, down to physical, chemical, and emotional. Now we can talk about this in ad nauseum, okay, when we talk about stress. We talk about the different factors of it. However, we don't talk about solutions. Now, I've done entire hours of talks on physical, chemical, and emotional stress, how to identify it, okay, but not what to do about it, okay? At the end of the talks, I always say, look, get your nervous system checked, do some exercise, meditate, pray, eat correctly, and get some deep sleep. And I leave it at that it's too simple. But this is the solution for it. So first, you got to identify there's a problem. If you look at the physical stressors, now everybody knows it could be accidents, it could be work. If you're sitting down 8, 5, 6, 7, 10 hours a day, You're increasing pressure on the disc, which is compromising the nerves that supply the entire pelvic floor. So you're talking erectile dysfunction, bowel and bladder dysfunction, difficult menstrual cycles. You're talking all of these physical challenges that can have a representation of different pathophysiologic responses. When we look at emotional, now emotions are chemicals secreted by how the brain perceives the environment, not at what's happening to you. It's like if I showed you a picture of a roller coaster and you thought, damn, that's cool. I want to do this bad. Okay? And that's based on your perception, okay? That you've had good experiences on roller coasters. Okay, if you were like me and saw a picture of a roller coaster, you'd say, holy no way, I'm out of here. You know, I'm gonna fake an illness. I don't wanna go on a roller coaster. It scares the hell out of me. Okay, so the same stimulus, but based on your perception of how you're wired. So when we talk about emotions, if you start saying, that bastard boss, no, Ashley, I didn't really mean it. No. Okay, so when you're saying that this person cut me off in traffic, okay, it actually is not based on what happens to you, it's based on your response to that or your perception of it. Okay, lack of social connection. If you look at solitary confinement, that's still used as one of the most popular tortures and effective tortures. Gut health, we talk a number of series about the gut-brain connection, the enteric nervous system. So what kind of toxins are we exposed to? Toxins that we're exposed to that can negatively affect the brain. Okay, when we talk about negative input, the story that is brilliant. This grandfather's telling this grandson about the two wolves that live inside of men. And one is angry and violent and aggressive, and the other is peaceful and loving and joyous. And they're always doing battle inside. And the young man asked the grandfather, well, which one wins the battle? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. So if you're feeding your brain with inputs of death, destruction, violence, if you turn on the news, and the news in LA, if you're turning this on and you see there was a shooting at a liquor store in downtown LA, okay, great, there's 14 million people in LA. How many random acts of kindness occurred? So you know, if you're choosing to look at things that can be distressing or put you in that stress state, that's not feeding the right animal. And then the chemical stressors, we're exposed to more chemicals than any other society's ever been exposed to. Vaccines, medication, processed foods. I mean, it's crazy. Now, if you understand the medical approaches today, okay, and you understand the medical approaches 50 years ago, okay, where they're still doing electroconvulsive therapy. They'll put a leather thing in the guy's mouth, pass electricity through the brain, okay, which can damage a lot of brains, and they don't really know how it works, but it's still being used today. Okay, 50 years from now, do you think giving a drug that we don't know how it works, that can cause suicide and suicidal thoughts and all of these symptoms, and it hasn't been studied for more than 13 weeks, and I got patients coming in here taking this stuff for years, do you think that that's an effective therapy? Do you think it was really drug deficiency that they had? Probably not. So let's look at the actual stressors and what you can do about it. So this is going to be what kicks that person over the edge. If we understand that physical, chemical, and emotional stress, you're going to respond the same way. So it doesn't really matter. Your body is going to be this anxiety stress state. Okay, so this could be the vaccination, the medication, the anxiety, the boss yelling at you. Okay. I mean, all of this stuff, but your body's going to respond like you're being chased by a tiger. So your heart rate's going to be elevated, blood supply to the gut's going to be shut down. You're going to have elevations in heart rate, elevations in blood pressure, elevations in blood sugar, elevations in cholesterol. Oh my gosh, doesn't that sound like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol? You're going to have digestive disorders under long-term stress stimulus. So when you start looking at this, you're thinking, wait a second, that's not just depression. That's most of what the ills of what people are suffering today. So could these be stress related? So now, is stress the problem, or is it an intelligent adaptive response? Here's a typical gal. Now, standing up straight, does that look straight or does that look bent? Now what you're going to see is those big black areas of the intestinal tract. It shouldn't look like that. Now this is obviously a physical stressor, but when you're under that physical stress, you've got altered nerve supply to the gut. Now you're looking at the enteric brain there, the gut brain. So this is where serotonin's produced. Now of course she went to the healthcare professionals that didn't know their butt from a hole in the ground. So she's taken a central nervous system poison called a muscle relaxant. Now this attacks the medulla. She's also taken sleep medications, which the side effect of sleep medications can cause depression, anxiety, and sleep, and antidepressants, which cause suicide and suicidal thoughts. So this is not, in my world, an effective means of solution. We can see the physical stressor. So if a doctor is going to look at you and you have depression, if they're not looking at the physical, chemical, or emotional stress load, then you need to find another doctor. Okay, if you got somebody that says, wow, you know, you're depressed, let's sit inside a room and talk a little bit. I mean, I was listening to this one guy who went to Rwanda after the genocide that they had. And he said, yeah, you know, after the massacre, because if you're familiar with Rwanda, you're talking two tribes, and one tribe was, I mean, literally trying to kill everybody in there. And so, you know, your neighbor might have killed your kids. So there was a lot of depression and anxiety. And they had these Western style psychotherapists come over there, and they kicked him out of the country because they said, well, wait a second. You got these people that had a major trauma in their world. And instead of taking them out in the sunshine, instead of, you know, giving them some good music to listen to, giving them connection with other people, they sat them in a room, a dark room, and they talked to them and had them relive the bad experiences. That didn't make them feel better. Do you know what I mean? It seems too simplistic to find your joy, to find what gives you joy, and to appreciate if you got the opposite of joy, okay, of anxiety, stress, and depression, then you should look for the solution. Luckily, this is the girl's solution. Here, watch this again. Before, after, bam! Oh my gosh, the gut even looks better. Okay, so when we look at this, you have to look at the physical stressors, and this means looking at your biomechanics throughout the day. This is one of the other ways that we check the nervous system. Now, if you look at the scores on that left side, all should be 90 or greater. And you're looking at 46 for the top score. That means that this person's in extreme fight or flight state. Now that means that person has physical stress, chemical stress, or emotional stress. Which one? I can't tell from this, but I know that they're in it. Okay, so their body, are they going to have high blood pressure or low blood pressure? Are they going to have good digestion or poor digestion? Poor, yeah, so you can already see what she's going to have. High blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, low functioning thyroid, systemic inflammation. So utilizing these type of tests to find the physical stressor really helps. Here's an 83-year-old gal, anxiety, fatigue. Why? Because she can't sleep. She's sleeping all the time. The average insomniac sleeps 12 hours a day. So what happens when you actually correct that physical stress? And this is used in 3 different journals. Your body feels better. You're changing the brain's input from the body. And when we understand that the frontal lobe, and this is going back in the neurology of this, that you have information going up to the cerebellum. The cerebellum is this little brain in the back, and that controls the frontal lobe. When you're talking depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, you have to get appropriate stimulus to that cerebellum in order to get the frontal lobe to work right. Does that make sense? So physical stress, is that important to take care of to maintain healthy mental health or healthy response to the environment? Absolutely. Now what about the emotional stressors? Because when we're talking about depression, I look at physical, chemical, and emotional as the same. And when you're talking about depression to the average person, they might think it's only emotion. Well, one of the things, and this is interesting when you read about this stuff, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. The opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's vitality. Because see, when you're depressed, you don't want to do anything. For God's sake, don't let that phone ring. Hell, there's a knock on the door, I gotta move. Do you know, if anybody has been there, you know what I mean. So this is where's that joy inside of you? Where's that missing? Because it does happen. And a lot of times it becomes it is our perception, but a lot of times our perception becomes a different reality. And what I want to teach you is mastery of life. Okay, and if you look at, does anybody remember that ultimate person in high school that you thought was just a bee's knees, just, man, beautiful, strong, sexy, whatever they were? It didn't work out, right? No, but it was a great fantasy just there. I know you relived it. That's okay. Okay, so think of this. If you got a top, all black on one side, which means all negative. This means you've lost your job, you lost your kid, you lost your relationship, you lost something. And on the other side, all white, beautiful, pure, you started a relationship, you're styling, whatever. Okay, whatever you think is what you would judge as good and other people would judge as bad. Well, then you start seeing, the longer you get off in life, that when this top spins, you see both halves of it. And so mastery of life isn't looking at the circumstance, it's looking at both halves of it. So if you've lost a job, does that mean that you might have a new opportunity? If you've lost a child, does that mean that you've got this sadness inside, but you also may appreciate your other children? When people hear that story, do they have a little bit of extra love or a little bit of extra caring for those around them? Absolutely, absolutely. So as devastating as one aspect of life is, you spin that top and you're going to see both halves. And that is mastery of life. So I'm going to show you, and this is because when you're in the state of depression, you can't see anything. I mean, you can't. Have you ever heard of somebody good looking, smart, famous, wealthy, and they commit suicide? Yeah, every month. Every month. So it's not what's your reality. Okay, so what I want you to think of right now, because this is going to we're going to expand your emotional status, because we know that it's not what's happening to you, it's your perception of it, that you're going to spin that top. If you had a genie, somebody to do anything with, that you could, rub that little lamp and she could get you, a car, home, island, whatever your fantasy is. But the problem with depression is people can't choose this. They don't know. They can't get out of the bed. So this way, I'm going to show you a technique. Okay, how do you get that desire? How do you get that spark? How do you get that vitality? Remember, the opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's vitality. It's that joy, that excitement. Well, first you have to judge yourself. Okay, what's your life actually like? So again, we're going to spin that top. So you're going to see what's good and what's bad. Now, a couple of the techniques I use, and we do this on our goal setting videos, is get the wheel. Okay, not the wheel of pain. No, this isn't Conan the Barbarian. I dug that. Remember him pushing the wheel? Or am I the only guy? Okay, so when you look at this, you've got different aspects, and you can put any kind of aspect you want there. Romance, finance, spiritual health, and you're going to mark the line at where you think your life is. Okay, and be just accurate. So if you have a fantastic relationship, you're going to put the line on the outside where romance is. If you're financially set, that's going to be outside. If you are estranged from your family and have no social engagements, you're going to put it right close to the hub. Okay, so this way, if you're all on the outside, you have every aspect of your life that's functioning correctly, your wheel is round. Okay, does that make sense? So you're going to see clearly that there's some aspects of your life that are functioning great, some aren't. Because we always sacrifice certain things in order to balance our life. Here is a trick, and this is the coolest trick ever. Imagine this, okay, because remember, we're looking, the opposite of depression is vitality. How do we get that spark? So imagine if there's a universal intelligence, something that surrounds us. Yeah, it's kind of like the Force in Star Wars, or could be God in Christianity, or the Muslim or Jewish faith, okay? This universal force, this intelligence, and you're connected to it. Okay, you're connected to it, but how do you get access to it? So you get a piece of paper, and a piece of paper and a pencil, and you do not leave the room. You write 100 things to do, be, or become. Now, you'll be able to do 10, 20, maybe 30 of them if you're really, really amazing. But eventually, you're going to say, man, I can't get it. I can't get all 100 of them, but you have to. So you got to make up stuff. So you're going to go, scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef. Okay, you're going to swim with the sharks. You're going to climb Half Dome naked. You're going to do whatever you want. Okay, learn Swahili. Learn cooking in Tuscany. You have to fill it out, and so you're just going to be coming up with stuff. But it's to do, be, or become. So you got to fill out those 100 things. Then you go back through and you put a 1, a 5, or a 10 next to each one. So if you're a single mom, 24 years old, and you put scuba diving with the sharks in the Great Barrier Reef, and you happen to be a receptionist, you're not going to be able to do it in a year. You may be able to do it in 5 years. For sure, you could do it in 10. Does that make sense? So you pick each one and you put a 1, a 5, or a 10 next to each one, whether you could do it in a year or 5 years or 10 years. And so this way it becomes more real, but this is a way to tap in to that universal energy and expand your mind. So it doesn't matter if you're living in a storage unit with no windows that has a ceiling this high and you have 2 kids in that storage unit, which is 8 by 10. Michael, do you remember that? Okay, seriously, I was there. It's not a high point of my life. Okay, and literally the ceiling was this high. I could straighten my legs, but I had to bend over. So when you do this, you make a vision board, because it doesn't matter what your reality is now. You're tapping into this vision, this vitality, this excitement. And then you build a vision board, and you just create. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can choose whatever you want, you put on there, and you look at this every day, and that reinforces it. So that gives you that vitality, that goal setting. We had one of our patients who hated being a mechanic, and he was a diesel mechanic, okay? And he had gotten hurt at work. And I said, well, because he's going, God, I just got to get back to work, and I'm saying, okay, you're not really having good compliance with the exercises and stuff. Do you really want to go back? He said, no, I hated it. I said, well, what do you want to do? I never thought about it. Okay, how about doing the 100 things, okay, to do, be, or become? Turns out he wanted to be a chef. Yeah, honest to God. And so I thought, cool. What kind of chef do you want? Okay, and so he got all excited, and you could see he went from this guy that was beaten down to, oh my God, we've got limitless possibilities. So what do you do for fun? So when you're talking about enjoyment, about changing your mindset, about changing that emotional aspect, do you always have to do drugs when you're having fun? Okay, what do you do? I mean, what do you like to do? I mean, do you like to educate yourself? Go to seminars? Yeah, you wouldn't be here. Okay, what do you do? Okay, so when you're looking at this, and we get people, with this one guy came in one time, smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Okay, he was a painter for automobiles. And so he was doing this all the time. And he says, Doc, you're not going to get me to stop smoking cigarettes. Okay? And I said, I don't want you to stop smoking. It's one of the most joyous things you do. And he looks at me like, what? I said, yeah. You get a chance to give yourself something. You get a chance to go out. You give yourself a break. This is joy. It's like scratching your own back. I said, but the stuff you're smoking isn't good for you, but you know that. He says, yeah, I know it's not good for me. But you could see it was the only joy he had. So I said, look, go over there to the smoke shop, get some organic tobacco, get some hand rolled and papers, okay, and start rolling your own. This way it's got no chemicals in there. You're going to be okay. And he's looking at me like, No doctor's ever told me to do that. And I said, well, I want you to have fun, but I don't want you dead, you know? So we went from 3 packs a day to 15 cigarettes a day, okay, overnight. And he's smoking organic tobacco. So, you know, I mean, it's like a really cool solution temporarily, so we could still give that joy. So when you look at people that got alcohol and drug problems, they're doing that because it gives them joy. There's some kind of physical, chemical, or emotional stressors, but it's destructive. So you got to find somebody that's going to go in there and say, find your joy. Okay, because this is, and ridicule and saying, look, man, get away from the drugs, get away from the meth or anything else. Has anyone in here ever had a family member that was addicted to drugs, you know, meth, cocaine, heroin, all 3? Okay, good. Why is my hand the only one up? Okay, good. Hey, I was raised in the 60s. What do you think? Okay. So there's other ways that you can do it. I mean, an emotional freedom technique is fantastic. That works really, really well. The DeMartini breakthrough process is fantastic. We actually have a DeMartini practitioner here. But there's so many different techniques out there that if you have an emotionally charged event in your past and you haven't dealt with it effectively, okay, it's going to run your life. And by effectively, I mean if you've had a loss, and this could be a loss of a career, spouse, loved one, job, whatever, okay? If you're left with love and gratitude, then you have dealt with it effectively. Absolutely. If you have anxiety or stress or depression from it, you haven't dealt with it effectively. So you need appropriate techniques like this. And now, neurolinguistic programming, this is one of the things that we do, that we recommend, because it's simple, it's easy, and it's an exercise you can do. This involves body posture, volume, intonation, and breathing. So literally, you read from a list of words, and it could be anything. This is the sample list we give out, but you say, I am, before each one of these words. And this is a good start. And you do it 10 minutes, 3 times a day. See, you don't have to believe it. If you're sick, you're hurt, you're poor, you think you're unloved, but I got to tell you, you are loved, okay? You know, and so no matter what happens, if you start inputting this into your brain and you're just putting data in there, you're going to start better. You're going to start changing the wiring, because emotions are chemicals secreted by how the brain perceives the environment. So you literally see, I am enthusiastic, I'm fulfilled, I'm compassionate, I am dynamic, I am strong, I am healthy. You know, you can say anything because it doesn't have to be true. You could say, I'm hairy. So you look at this, but you do it 10 minutes, 3 times a day. And it's a way to start to hardwire the brain. It's just like practicing tennis. This is one of the techniques that we use. And I got to tell you, I do this every morning. I'm up at 4. I'm at the car by 4:30. Pretty friggin' grumpy. By the time I get here 15 minutes later, I'm on fire. Okay, meditation. This only takes 5 minutes. Because remember, physical, chemical, and emotional stress, these all put you in a sympathetic dominant state. If you take 5 minutes, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, diaphragmatic, we've got several videos on how to do meditation, but just try it. Try it. It actually works. Now this one's one of the tougher ones, but it's a cool technique. If you've ever been in a relationship where you felt unappreciated, unloved, a lot of personal challenges, and you're thinking, damn, not being in this relationship, it'd be better than being in this relationship. Okay? I know I never have. Okay, yeah. I got 3 marriages to my credit. Okay, so when you look at this, now the first time I was married when I was 17, so you know it seemed like a really good idea at the time. Okay, but when you look at this, try this for a relationship. Just try it. Let's say you got somebody that you've had challenges with. For the next 90 days, live like they're the greatest partner ever. And I mean greatest. You know, hi honey, how you doing? Fuck you. What? You know, I still love you, dear. So you can go in there and anything that they're, it doesn't have to be reciprocal. You're giving like they're the greatest lover, the greatest friend, the greatest everything for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, if it's not reciprocal, beautiful. You've done a great job. Okay, you can leave with your head held high, and you're either going to have the greatest relationship in the world, or you're going to leave friends, and that's way better. Okay, chemical stressors. So we've got the physical, chemical. Sleep is the chemical stressor. If you cannot sleep, if you're not efficient at sleep, lack of sleep can cause depression, anxiety, everything. Now, optimal human function is between 6.5 and 7.5 hours. There's high disease rates at 9 hours or greater or 5 hours or less. When we talk about sleep, we talk an hour about the chemical aspects of sleep and how crazy sleeping pills are. But this one, you're an animal species living on the planet. You have certain circadian rhythms that you got to abide with. And if you can reset your brain, you reset that sleep pattern. And it takes 5 days to do it. And you literally, it seems too simple, but that's how solutions really are. Okay, understand that you're going to be restricting, it's called sleep restrictive therapy. You're going to restrict your sleep to 6 hours. And again, it's going to be a challenge, but for the first 3-4 days, lack of sleep can have the same effect on you as drinking alcohol. So know your reaction time is going to be impaired, set it, do the appropriate precautions. But you journal right before bed, and this is just writing down thoughts of emotional events that happen that day or that are going to happen the next day or something that pisses you off. So this quiets the overactive mind. Then you have to read a paper book 15 minutes before bed. Then you have to put nightshades on, or it has to be so dark you put your hand in front of your face you can't see it. Because every 90 minutes you go through these rapid eye movement states or deep sleep, your eyes literally open, then they close. And if there's any visual stimulus there, bam, your fight or flight system kicks in and you got to get up and pee or roll over. Then you go to bed at 10 to 10:30, get out of bed at 4 to 4:30. That means out of bed. Now, if you got up twice that night to pee or rolled over or were uncomfortable, I don't care. Go all day long, no nap. Next night, journal, read, nightshades. Go to bed at 10 to 10:30, out of bed at 4 to 4:30. And the same thing, you just keep going. Within 5 days, you'll be sleeping through the night. Within 21 days, you're all set. Keep doing the journaling, the reading, and the nightshades for forever. But sleep in, man. You've earned it. Sleep in till 5:30. Yeah, but you're going to see that this is how human beings live. Optimal human function. It's fantastic. And now, what about the other chemical stressors? Sleep, lack of sleep is a chemical stressor. Now, antibiotics. They literally destroy your gut flora. There's the enteric brain. And if you're eating commercially produced animals, you're getting antibiotics. If you're eating pasteurized dairy, you're getting killed antibiotics and killed bacteria. Now, a lot of the stuff that we're exposed to, such as glyphosate-soaked bread, packaged foods, all of this can blow holes in the intestinal tract, along with the medications that can cause damage. So leaky gut, just like I showed you on that very first picture, is rampant in our culture, rampant. So we have to build the microbiome. And if you're just taking a probiotic, but you're not taking fermented foods, you're missing the big picture. So this is 30,000 different species in the gut. So this means different fermented foods, different kombucha, different everything from everywhere. So look at bacteria-containing foods as vital. And if you have healthy gut flora, you got healthy everything. So you're going to be going on an organic plant-based diet. And this is everybody who's got depression and anxiety. Healthy fats, coconut oil, olive oil, avocados, it's fantastic. Fermented veggies. Think every time you eat a bacteria-containing food, you're taking in life, because that's what you require to stay on this planet. And if you're in a stress state, juice and vegetables, blending fruits, because that's going to pre-digest it. And omega-3s are fantastic. That's what you needed. You need healthy amounts of vitamin D. Now we're getting into our winter time. Some people, you guys already are there, okay? Yeah, it snowed in South Dakota. It snowed a couple of weeks ago. So, but vitamin D, you got to supplement. You can supplement it with fish oils or vitamin D supplements, omega-3s. And then it's interesting when we talk about chemical stressors, exercise is better than any antidepressant. So and this is what we tell our patients, if you got a chance, get your shoes off, go walking barefoot in the grass or the hard sand, you get an antioxidant effect from the grounding effect. You're outside, the sunlight has ionizing radiation, which increases the oxygen capability of the air that you're breathing. And I mean, when was the last time you laid on your back on a grassy field or in a park, looked up through the tree at the sun and said, boy, this sucks? Oh, never. Okay, never. Okay. And when you look at exercise, and I'm talking walking 30 minutes a day, okay, angiogenesis, so that increased blood vessels, increased nerves, increased synapses, helps with neurotransmitters. This is the key. But some people are so sad they can't even get out. So look at this, and then put life-containing foods in you. If you're eating processed foods, that's dead. I'm talking natural sources of vitamin C. We're already short of it now in the wintertime. Get this stuff. I mean, fruits, vitamin E, natural sources, phenomenal. And if you're eating the peel, make sure it's organic. But I mean, we're talking just healthy, living, live foods. Vitamin A. This has been vitamin C, vitamin A, and vitamin E. These are all the vitamins that can protect you in your immune system response to certain colds and flus. So if you're talking about getting a flu shot that has no neurotoxins that can damage the brain versus, sweet potatoes, get the healthy foods. So what's the solution for physical, chemical, and emotional stress? Physical stress, you need to get your structure checked. Okay, we just checked this one gal from Hawaii, and she was saying, oh, I'm healthy, I'm fine, I don't feel bad at all. I have bad bunions that are really horrible, and I've got this and this and this, but I'm fine. Okay, what do you think her x-rays look like? So posture analysis, look at the other factors like bunions, skin health, sedentary lifestyle. Emotional, take charge of your emotional health. Do the neurolinguistic programming, 100 things to do, be or become, sleep restriction therapy. I mean, literally take charge of it. And why do I put exercise under emotion? Because it helps. Oh my God, exercise is under all three categories. No kidding. It's called movement deficiency syndrome. Oh, where is that in the DSM? Okay, vaccinations. If you've been exposed to vaccines like I was as a kid, I got 6. If you're exposed to vaccines at kids today, they've had 72 doses of 17 different vaccines. So that's crazy. So chelation, oral chelation, the vitamin C, the vitamin A, vitamin E. You might have to do IV chelation. They're going to have damaged guts. You got to heal the guts. If you're taking medications for a problem, find the problem. Don't drug it. Simple? I think so. If anybody says drug deficiency syndrome, I mean, if you've had parts removed, you're going to have drugs or anti-rejection drugs for the rest of your life. But that's not the majority of us. Okay? Plant-based, organic, clean up your environment, and exercise. Yes. Can you see why it seems too simple, right? And so if you have this is what you can do for those 3 stressors. You may still need somebody else to help you. So find a friend, call somebody that, like an orthomolecular psychiatrist, call somebody that's a healthcare professional that has therapies that you respect. I mean, a lot of people say, why don't you have health insurance? I said, what am I going to go to them for? You know what my cardiologist says? Same thing as my gastroenterologist and my, neurologist, and I don't use that type of therapy. It doesn't make sense to me. For emergency, they're the best in the world. But find a healthcare professional whose methods you respect and follow it. Now, we're doing a bunch of stuff on Extreme Health Academy, and you're going to see so many different doctors on there. Go to their site, and we're talking Justin and Kate, different doctors from all around the world are talking about a number of different therapies to literally help with virtually every kind of disease. The cruise, I think, is booked up. I think there's 1 cabin left, as weird as that is. So I think we're going to go to the Caribbean the year after next. So that I'm still working out. And then check out the Dr. John Bergman site. Okay, so that was awkward for me because I didn't have the facts and data to support it, but I have several hours of videos that would support the solutions. Okay, was that okay? Good. What time is it? 40? Okay, I can take two questions.
Krill oil instead of omega or...
Do I like krill oil? Yeah, krill oil is pretty good. It comes in pill form, and that's the only problem. Because a lot of people who are in a stress state can't break down the pill form, so they're going to have to take it with food. But the omega-3s from anchovy, mackerel, and sardine are going to be the best. As long as it's filtered to get the heavy metals out. Good. And then next week, we're going to go on more solutions. Thank you very much.